Welcome back to the deep dive. We take a stack of sources, pull out the key stuff, basically give you the essential knowledge shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
And today, we're looking at something that it seems simple on the surface, but it's actually got layers, deep layers.
Smørrebrød.
Yes, and let's get to that pronunciation right out there. It's roughly Smørrebrød.
Smørrebrød, guys. And you're right, it's so much more than, an open-faced sandwich. It's really a core piece of Danish culture, a national icon, you could say.
Yeah.
And our sources really show it's about culinary precision.
Right. So our mission today is figuring out how this humble slice of dense rye bread became an art form. We want to trace it, from a worker's lunch to something you might find on a fancy menu.
Yeah.
Understand that cultural connection, the whole Hague thing, and maybe most importantly, pull out those key chef secrets, the real rules for making authentic smørrebrød.
Exactly. And what I find fascinating is how it reflects this Danish idea, the sort of effortless sophistication through restraint. It looks simple, but underneath there's real discipline, real technique. We'll dig into the sources that show how that careful simplicity actually becomes the measure of quality.
Okay, let's start that journey. The origins, we're talking way back. Middle Ages, farmers, laborers, needing something practical, right?
Absolutely. Necessity is the word. They needed food that was hearty, portable, and would last through a long day out in the fields.
And the bread itself was key, that rug bread.
Oh, totally. That thick, dark rye bread, it was the foundation. It's dense, it doesn't crumble easily, holds up well. It wasn't just carrying the food, it was the plate.
A long-lasting, edible plate. Brilliant.
Pretty much. And the toppings. Purely functional. Whatever leftovers they had, cold cuts, maybe some salted fish, cheese, things that could handle not being refrigerated.
The ultimate grab-and-go lunch, really. Built for pure efficiency.
Exactly. Survival food, making the most of what was available. And this tradition, it just kept going right through industrialization in the 1800s. People moved to the cities, brought the habit with them.
And they just call it smørrebrød.
Yeah, simply butter and bread. That was the casual term.
Which eventually just smooshed together into the one word we know now, smørrebrød.
Mm-hmm.
But the sources point to a real turning point, right? When it went from just being food to being something more, an expression of identity.
That's the key shift. It happened in Copenhagen. Around the 1880s, give or take.
Okay.
The middle class was growing, city life getting a bit more refined, and this simple worker's lunch. It started appearing on cafe menus. Restaurateurs saw the potential.
Ah, so it moved indoors, off the field, and onto the table.
Right, and it stopped being just a pile of food on bread. It became more structured, more thought about. Presentation started to matter, aesthetics.
This is where the art form really begins.
Yeah.
And there's one family name that comes up again and again in the sources, someone who really helped define this.
The Ida Davidson family, absolutely legendary. Their contribution wasn't just cooking, it was almost like cataloging the art.
Cataloging. How so?
Well, the sources suggest they formally named and defined hundreds of different combinations, make sure everyone knew exactly what went into, say, the veterinarian's night meal. That's a classic with lorfrite and salted meat.
Wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't just roast beef on rye. It had a specific identity, specific components. They brought structure and, frankly, prestige.
So they didn't invent it, but they gave it the rule book, the menu, pushed it onto a bigger stage. And the restaurant is still a huge deal in Denmark.
Oh, absolutely. A landmark, known for incredible creativity, but also that huge variety, all meticulously defined.
It really shows how much they value tradition, elevating it, but keeping the core ideas, the rug brood, the balance intact.
Precisely. They kind of institutionalized that idea of creative restraint, not just piling things on, but careful curation.
Okay, let's talk about that restraint and care. How does it connect to that famous Danish concept, hygge? Is smørrebrød hygge on a plate?
You could definitely say that. It's maybe the most edible form of hygge. We often think of hygge as just cozy, but it's deeper, right? It's about being present, creating harmony, sharing quality moments.
Right.
And think about eating smørrebrød. You can't really rush it.
No, definitely not something you eat walking down the street. You'd make a mess.
Exactly. It demands you sit down, slow down, appreciate the effort, the structure, that careful arrangement of colors, textures, flavors. It's an act of care from the maker to the eater. That presentation fosters warmth, connection. It turns a simple meal into, well, a small event.
So the aesthetics aren't just superficial. They're part of creating that feeling, that connection, respect through presentation.
Absolutely. And the sources show Smørrebrød thriving everywhere today. Still on home kitchen tables, families assembling them together, which is peak hig.
Yeah.
But also in hip modern restaurants, even getting nods from Michelin inspectors.
And the modern versions, they really focus on local seasonal stuff, right?
Yeah.
While keeping that rug brewed base.
Very much so. It's
Yeah.
inherently seasonal. You'll see herring and new potatoes in spring, maybe richer meats and preserved things in winter. It connects directly to the Danish landscape, the time of year. It tells a story on the plate.
A story of nature and simple, careful elegance. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's get practical. For anyone listening who wants to try making this properly, not just, piling stuff on toast,
Right.
the sources lay out some essential rules, secrets almost, for authentic Smørrebrød. What are they?
Okay, this is where the precision really matters. The idea is simple, yeah, but the execution. Less forgiving, get these wrong, and you don't get art, you get, well, a soggy mess.
All right, rule number 1, the absolute starting point.
The foundation. It has to be dense rug brewed, no compromise. The rule is clear. White bread is out completely.
Nice, so strict.
You need that density, that slightly sour rye flavor. It provides the structure, holds up to the toppings, and its taste grounds everything. White bread would just collapse, get soggy instantly.
Okay, stability first. Rule 2 is about the spread, right? The barrier.
The butter barrier. Yes, you need cold butter, spread thinly but right to the very edges.
Cold butter.
Yeah, it's technical. Cold fat acts as a seal. It stops moisture from the toppings like mayo, sauces, juicy things soaking into the bread. Keeps the rug brewed firm.
Ah, functional waterproofing. Makes sense.
Totally functional. Connects right back to those practical origins.
Okay, bread, butter barrier. Now building it. Rule 3, the order of operations.
Yes, the layering. It needs to be thoughtful, deliberate, not just thrown together.
So what's the order?
Generally, you start with maybe a thin smear of sauce or some greens, something for the next layer to stick to. Then your main event, the protein or primary filling, and finally the garnishes go on top.
It's about controlling the experience of eating it.
Exactly. That sequence means when you take a bite, you get the flavors and textures in the best possible order. It's orchestrated.
Which leads perfectly into Rule 4, the overall goal for that bite.
The harmony rule. This is crucial. Every single bite should be balanced. A mix of textures, something crunchy, something smooth, maybe something soft.
And flavors.
And complementary flavors. Sweet, sour, salty, savory. They need to work together. It tastes like one harmonious thing, not 4 separate things fighting for attention. If one element screams louder than the others, the balance is off.
Okay, harmony. And the final rule, number 5, sounds like it ties it all together.
It really does. It's simplicity reigns. Or as the sources put it, creative restraint.
Don't overdo it.
Precisely. Great Smørrebrød isn't about piling on as much as possible. Traditionally, you stick to maybe 3-4 main ingredients, tops. The magic is in the pairing and the perfect execution of those simple elements.
Less is more, if done right.
Definitely.
Okay, let's make that concrete.
Yeah.
The sources give some classic examples that nail this simplicity and harmony rule. What's the first one?
A real classic. Smoked salmon. Paired simply with a light mustard dill sauce, maybe some fresh dill sprigs on top.
Simple.
Very. The richness of the salmon, cut by the sauce's acidity, brightened by the fresh dill. Clean, elegant. That's it.
Perfect. Okay, example number 2.
Roast beef, often paired with crispy fried onions and pickled beetroot.
Ah, the beetroot's key there, I bet.
Absolutely essential. That sharp, sweet acidity cuts right through the rich beef. And the crispy onions. They bring that vital crunch. Texture, fat, acid, all in balance.
Nice. And the third classic, something from the sea.
The egg and shrimp combination. Egg au gratin. A true celebration of Danish seafood.
How's that put together?
Often just hard-boiled egg slices and small, sweet shrimp layered on the buttered rug brewed. Maybe a little mayonnaise, sometimes not even that. The crucial finish, a good squeeze of fresh lemon juice.
Again, super simple, letting the main ingredients shine.
Exactly. The acid from the lemon just lifts the delicate seafood. No need to complicate it.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening? We've seen Smørrebrød go from essentially a farmer's edible plate out of pure necessity to this really sophisticated symbol of Danish culture. But importantly, it stays true to its core. Simple things, combined thoughtfully with real technical skill, creating something, well, extraordinary.
It really is a masterpiece built on that idea of creative restraint. And when you eat it, you're not just having lunch, you're sort of tasting Danish history, pride, that careful intentionality.
Hmm.
You can appreciate the effort that goes into placing every single element just so. It honors its humble roots while still inspiring chefs today.
So hopefully this deep dive gives you the blueprint, not just to eat Smørrebrød, but to get it understand its cultural weight, why that restraint matters in cooking. And maybe it leaves you with a thought to chew on.
Ooh, a provocative thought.
Yeah, something to mull over. Yeah. If Smørrebrød shows us how need and restraint can lead to this sophisticated national art form, what other simple food traditions out there, born from humble beginnings, are maybe also secretly exploring cultural identity, aesthetic perfection, just waiting to be seen that way?
That's a great question. Something to think about next time you encounter simple traditional food anywhere in the world.
Exactly. Go explore that idea in your own culinary adventures.